Have you ever wondered why the kindest people seem to carry the heaviest pain? Why those who show up first, give the most, and ask for nothing in return are often the ones left behind? Since childhood, you were told that if you were nice, the world would be kind in return. That if you smiled, stayed quiet, kept the peace, you would be loved. And so you became agreeable, soft-spoken, easy to be around. You called it being good, but what you were really doing was learning how to disappear without anyone noticing. You confused silence with virtue. You confused pleasing with connection. You thought if you stayed small enough, quiet enough, useful enough, someone would finally see you. But niceness is not a language the world understands. It does not inspire protection. It does not command respect. It simply makes you invisible. Because the truth is harsh, people do not cherish what is endlessly available. They consume it. Your kindness became a currency others spent, but never repaid. This isn't an attack on your goodness. It's a confrontation with the cost of it. You were trained to believe that sacrifice is noble, that endurance is proof of love. But what if your loyalty was just fear in disguise? Fear of being abandoned, fear of being disliked, fear of setting boundaries and watching people walk away. You thought you were being generous, but what you were really doing was betraying yourself in slow, quiet increments. One yes at a time. The illusion of the nice person is not kindness. It is self-erasure wrapped in a smile. You were taught that if you do the right thing, the right things will happen to you. That if you are honest, generous, forgiving, the world will circle back with its approval. But the world is not a mirror. It is not calibrated to your goodness. You've learned this the hard way, through silence after sacrifice, betrayal after loyalty, dismissal after devotion. The lie of moral reciprocity is seductive. It tells you your suffering has meaning, that your patience will pay off. But more often than not, it doesn't. Integrity without discernment becomes exploitation. Kindness without boundaries becomes a signal. This person will not fight back. You think they admire your goodness, but they don't see virtue. They see opportunity. The softest hearts often attract the sharpest teeth. And while you're busy being fair, considerate, apologizing for simply existing, others are negotiating, maneuvering, surviving. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote that power respects power, not virtue. And what the world rewards is not goodness. It is leverage. You mistake your disappointment for injustice. But it's not injustice. It's misalignment. You brought a moral compass to a chessboard. You played by rules that no one else agreed to. And now you're exhausted, not because you gave too much, but because you expected the world to notice. You expected fairness from people who only understand advantage. But this is not a reason to become cruel. It is a reason to become wise. Your heart does not need to harden. It needs to sharpen. People-pleasing is not a virtue. It is a survival strategy wrapped in applause. Beneath the polished politeness, the tireless availability, the endless yeses, there is something far more primal. Fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being unwanted. Fear of losing love. From the earliest years, you learned that safety is conditional, that approval must be earned, that if you are agreeable, compliant, quiet, maybe you'll be spared the punishment of abandonment. So you smiled when it hurt. You nodded when your soul screamed no. Each time you silenced yourself to make others comfortable, you were praised, called mature, called good, and the praise felt warm for a while. But it came at a price, because with every self-betrayal, your real self receded further into the shadows. You began to lose track of what you wanted, what you needed, what you believed. The truth is, most people-pleasers aren't kind. They're scared. Scared to be fully seen. Scared that if they stopped performing, the room would go cold, the silence would grow sharp, and love would disappear. This is not goodness. This is conditioning, a nervous system shaped by the tremors of unpredictability. You became fluent in facial cues, masterful in emotional temperature checks. You built your identity around being digestible, but in doing so, you swallowed your truth again and again, until the ache in your chest wasn't sadness. It was absence, the absence of your real voice. And the longer you wear the mask, the more invisible you become, even to yourself. You believe your goodness should be obvious, that your compassion, your loyalty, your willingness to endure should be recognized. But the world does not reward quiet sacrifice. It does not tally your invisible efforts. It responds not to your intentions, but to your presence. You've been generous, supportive, forgiving. You've bent over backwards and still been dismissed. You think you're not respected because people don't understand your heart. But that's not it. You're not respected because you never made them feel the weight of your absence. The overly kind are not admired, they are expected, and expectations become entitlements. You make yourself small, and they call it humility. You stay silent, and they call it agreement. You endure disrespect, and they assume you prefer it that way. Machiavelli said it simply: it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. He wasn't glorifying cruelty. He was exposing the truth of power, because in the hierarchy of influence, the one who can walk away always holds more power than the one who pleads to stay. You've been trying to earn your place through grace, through patience, through softness. But softness without boundaries invites erosion. You become the easy choice, the backup plan, the one who will always say yes, even while breaking. And the more you give, the more invisible you become. Respect doesn't come from how good you are. It comes from how impossible you are to replace. So stop asking to be seen. Start choosing not to be overlooked. You've been told that being good is enough, that if your heart is pure, the world will eventually notice. But the world doesn't respond to purity. It responds to presence. It responds to those who walk into a room and shift its gravity, who speak little but command much. This isn't about cruelty. It's about precision. It's about knowing when to be silent, when to be sharp, and when to walk away so completely that your absence stings louder than your presence ever did. Machiavelli taught that, to survive, one must be both fox and lion. The fox to see the trap, the lion to terrify the threat. But you've been raised only to be the lamb, docile, obedient, agreeable. And so you find yourself surprised when the world does not protect you. But power doesn't kneel to goodness. It kneels to force, to wit, to quiet defiance. Strategic virtue is not about abandoning your values. It's about guarding them with discernment so fierce that no one dares mistake your kindness for compliance. True virtue is not a soft glow. It is a sharp edge. Courage is not loud. It's composed. Intelligence is not scattered. It's silent until necessary. Discernment is not judgment. It's knowing what to engage with and what to let rot in your absence. The most powerful people are not those who never feel. They're those who never flinch. And if you want to be respected, not just liked, you must stop hoping the world sees your heart. Instead, make sure it never forgets your spine. You were never meant to become cold to protect yourself. You were never meant to harden your heart until it stopped recognizing its own rhythm. But somewhere along the way, pain convinced you that your choices were binary: be kind and get crushed, or be cruel and stay safe. This is the false dilemma of the wounded, and it has kept you swinging between softness that invites harm and hardness that betrays your nature. But there is a third way, a quieter way, one that does not sacrifice your spirit to protect your skin. You do not have to become what hurt you to stop being hurt. You are allowed to speak softly and still be heard. You are allowed to walk away without raising your voice. You are allowed to love deeply and say no with finality. Real kindness has boundaries. Real compassion does not require martyrdom. The strongest people are not those who never feel. They are the ones who feel everything and still choose alignment over approval. They do not fold for comfort. They do not bend for fear. Your new strength is not a mask. It is a remembering of who you were before guilt taught you to shrink, before fear convinced you that silence was noble, before abandonment disguised itself as virtue. This strength is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is the realization that you can be generous without being drained, present without being penetrated, and loving without being leashed. The world does not need a colder you. It needs a truer you, one who is no longer afraid to take up space. How many times have you whispered, "It's okay," when it wasn't? How many times have you stayed, smiled, given, listened, while something inside you screamed to run? You called it empathy. But if you look closer, it was fear. Fear of being rejected. Fear of being seen as difficult. Fear of being alone. So you gave them grace they didn't earn, time they didn't value, love they couldn't return. And somewhere in the process, you started disappearing. You called it patience, but it was self-abandonment in disguise. You stayed quiet to keep the peace, but it was your own peace that shattered. You gave without receiving. You waited without being chosen. You excused behavior that drained you because you thought it made you good. But unguarded kindness does not inspire loyalty. It invites consumption. The world doesn't always reward softness. Sometimes it devours it. Ask yourself, who benefits when you disappear? Who profits from your silence, your exhaustion, your compliance? Because the truth is, not everyone wants your best self. They want your most usable self. They don't need you whole. They need you pliable. So they will praise your patience while they exploit your time. They will call you kind while they bleed you dry. But make no mistake, when your kindness becomes a weapon turned inward, it is no longer virtue. It is violence. You owe no one your exhaustion. Not your family, not your friends, not the world that taught you your value was tied to your usefulness. You were not born to be everyone's solution. You were not created to absorb pain just because you know how to heal it. There comes a moment when continuing to give becomes a quiet betrayal, a betrayal of the self that keeps whispering, "I can't do this anymore." And the moment you begin to listen to that voice, really listen, everything starts to change. Dignity is not earned through endurance. It is claimed through clarity, through the refusal to keep proving yourself to those who would rather drain you than understand you. You don't have to keep showing up for conversations that go nowhere. You don't have to keep offering your peace in exchange for chaos. You don't have to keep explaining why you deserve to be treated like a person. The people who need constant justification for your boundaries never intended to honor them. You're not here to be everything for everyone. You are here to be fully yourself, without apology. And that means saying no without guilt, drawing the line without explanation, leaving the room without a dramatic exit. Emotional self-defense is not cruelty. It is maturity. It is the art of protecting your energy like it matters, because it does. The strongest boundary you will ever draw is the one that does not come with shame. Just silence, just stillness, just peace. There is a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when something shifts, not in them, but in you. You stop hoping they'll notice. You stop waiting for an apology. You stop explaining your pain like it's a misunderstanding to be cleared up. And in that silence, in that breath between who you were and who you are becoming, something irreversible occurs. You begin to see yourself, not as they saw you, not as they needed you to be, but as you truly are. This is not rage. This is not revenge. This is recognition that the people who protest your boundaries were never loving you. They were surviving off you. They fed on your compliance, your softness, your inability to walk away. And now that you have remembered your worth, they will call it selfishness. Let them. Let them say you've changed. Let them say you're cold. They are grieving the version of you who never said no. Let the old image burn. Let the story you kept rehearsing fall apart. You don't need to convince anyone anymore. You don't need to be the good one, the understanding one, the available one. You need only to be the honest one, the one who finally chose self-respect over performance. You carry a truth now, one that cannot be unlived, one that does not need to be loud to be real. This is your turning point, and no one has to witness it for it to matter. You are not cruel. You are awake. Awake to the cost of being agreeable. Awake to the burden of being the one who always makes it work. Awake to the silent erosion of your identity each time you chose peace over truth, harmony over honesty, self-erasure over discomfort. You wore the good person mask so well, even you believed it was your face. But now, something deeper has surfaced. Not bitterness, not rage, but a refusal. A sacred refusal to continue betraying yourself just to be liked. Machiavelli has been misunderstood. He did not write to turn people into villains. He wrote to reveal the hidden architecture of power, to show how virtue without discernment becomes a leash. He understood that real freedom begins not when you are loved, but when you are no longer controlled by the need to be. And that is where you are now. Not angry, but free. Not vindictive, but unbound. Not perfect, but fully irreversibly yours. So this is the moment. Quiet, unapologetic, final. The moment you stop asking how to be enough and start living as if you already are. Let them say you've changed. Let them misunderstand. You're not here to fit the role. You're here to rewrite the script. From this point forward, your presence will not be a performance. Your kindness will not be a cage. And your silence, it will be the loudest thing they've ever heard. This is your first act of truth. The next begins when you choose not to look back. And remember, the next video picks up where we left off here. Awakening builds upon each video. See you in the next one.